Creating success out of failure. Creating success out of failure.
I'm Jonathan Federa. I'm here to inspire you to hustle and grow your income while doing what you love. Just because you have problems doesn't mean you can't prosper. Just because you have tragedy doesn't mean you can't triumph. Actually, you should be taking advantage of that.
There's positivity in my pain. I took scarcity and turned it into strength. I always tell life, there's not much you can do to me where I won't make an obstacle an opportunity. We never lose, we only learn lessons. If you wanna change your perspective. If you don't know how to do that, we'll show you how right now. Cause it's about to go down. You are tuning in to creating success out of failure. Creating success creating success out of failure. Out of failure.
Hey everybody, welcome to Creating Success Out of Failure. Here is one of my good friends I met in Arte. His name's Ryan Williams. He owns and operates Industry Threadworks, and he has a very successful business, and he had a very successful career as a Navy SEAL. And I think that with the way that Ryan operates, you guys are in for a treat, and you're going to learn so much that you can actually take into your business, into your daily lives, and make improvements. So Ryan, how's it going, brother?
Dude, thanks, man. I hope I live up to that intro.
I have no doubt you will. No doubt. So take us into what your company does now, right? Like, what are operations like? And every single business owner, like, everyone talks about having the Lambo. Everyone talks about having the Ferrari. Nobody understands how many times you got kicked in the nuts and had to get back up and how you did it, right? Like, I want to know where you tripped and how you got up and how you made it better. Because that's what matters, right?
Yeah, dude, absolutely. And I think there's a false expectation of a lot of new entrepreneurs getting into entrepreneurship where they see on Instagram, like, everybody's highlight reel, like, oh, I got this car, I got this house, I got this girl, I got this whatever that, measure of success is. And they don't show the problems leading up to it, or the times they got kicked in the nuts leading up to it. Yeah. So they have this unrealistic idea of what it takes to be successful in business. And a lot of times I find it's always best to be prepared. So the more you can know about something, I think the better your chances of success are. So that's why I do. Thanks for having me on today, man. This is a topic that I freaking love because I think more people should be open and honest about the realities of entrepreneurship. Yeah. Because it's not for everyone. Like, I mean, you and I, like, we, similar mindsets, and we get it. And I'm okay with being punched in the face, like, literally and figuratively to get the results that I want, Yeah. But if you're not willing to, it's like, kind of like, if you're not willing to get punched in the face, don't try to go be a UFC fighter, right? Don't get in fights. You know what I mean? Like, it's not going to be as easy as you think. So yeah, we started out, my first clothing line I started was with my buddy, Mike Sowers. We started Forge Clothing back in 2007. I got out of the SEAL teams in 2008, a little bit of overlap. I sold my half of that to one of our employees about 5 years later, started and sold another apparel line, a kettlebell company, built and sold, I think, 2 other apparel lines after that. And then what we started doing is, after I sold the kettlebell company, I kind of, not let off the gas, but I had a little bit of, runway where I could be like, okay, let me take a break. Let me kind of take a look around, pull up out of, the day-to-day operations and the grind to look at, like, okay, what do I want to do next? What are my skills? What are my assets? What's my experience, and who needs that? And how can I apply it to, help people? And turns out a friend of mine had an apparel line, and he was doing well in sales, but just having real struggles, like, kind of scaling it. So I came in and I was like, dude, this is like, this is how I was running it. And you could do this, and you can change this. You're paying too much for this. This is crazy what you're doing here. So let's change this. And this is really awesome. And just kind of like provided like a template of like, hey, here's what a successful apparel brand should look like. Yeah. Here's where you're hitting the mark. Here's where you're missing the mark. Let's move a few things around. So we helped them scale that brand from about 100,000 revenue to 4.5 million in 3 years, I think. it was pretty good. And then, so that was kind of proof of concept. And when we first started with that, I didn't even have industry. Threadworks didn't exist. I was just kind of like, hey bro, I can help you out with this. Like
I know a few things.
Yeah, I know a guy. So then, but through that kind of proof of concept of like, okay, well, this actually works. It is really valuable. We can see measurable, real, significant results with this. Let's kind of build it out and see who else needs it. And through that process, we end up starting, formal company. And that's been, as far as like leadership, there's been a very distinct transition for me from being an operator in the company, doing the actual work, to just me, and my entire overhead was like 1 square foot for my laptop, and that was it. Which is great.
Don't tell me you don't miss that. You missed that. Did you start growing?
A lot of times I do. Well, that's the funny thing is, like, I love being an operator in the company. Like, I really enjoy that part of it. And it's very satisfying because if you want more money, you just work harder because you're the one doing the work. So it's very linear. You're like, okay, I'm going to work. I want more money. I'm going to work harder. I'm going to sacrifice more and work more hours, less sleep. It's a very simple equation. But then we started to get a couple employees, 3 or 4 or 5, and I started to get into a managerial position where I wasn't the operator as much anymore. I still had my tasks that I was doing that were operational in the company, but it was more shifting towards, okay, not quite a leadership role yet, but more like organizational and managing people and, hiring, and starting to get into like the people aspect of it. And that's when I joined Airte, and I realized, wow, I got a lot to learn. And it was actually something a friend of mine said, because we were talking about big goals and everything. And I told him, like, big goals I have for the company. And he's like, bro, you're never gonna be able to do that unless you start learning how to deal with people and learn to be a leader. I was like, nah, fuck that. We're just gonna outsource everything. We'll be fine. And it took me about a year to realize, dude, he was totally right. He was 100% right. And that was kind of the spark that got me interested in self-development. And that's when I got into Airte and met you, and really realized, like, wow, how deep this pool goes and how far that ladder of success actually rises. I was like, holy cow, I have so much to learn. And that kind of like got me onto reading and, personal development and everything else. But then that helped me step into the next evolution of me as an entrepreneur was, operator, manager. And then once we got like, 12, 15, 20 people, that was where I was like, okay, I'm in a leadership position now. I'm no longer the one actually doing the work. I'm not an operator in the company. My only tasks are leadership level, executive level stuff, which frankly, when I first started, I was not comfortable with at all. And I struggled for a long time with trying to stick my fingers back in the machine. Be like, no, let me fix that. Let me do it. It's like, I know the best way. And the machine had evolved so far beyond what it originally looked like when it was just me running it, that when I would go and stick my fingers in these things and try to fix it, I actually fucked it up. It's like, it took me a while to realize, dang, like, I am not the best person for these roles anymore. Yeah. And then, so that got me into thinking, okay, well, what can I do now to further the company and push it forward? Because if it's no longer working more hours or just doing more work or sacrificing whatever, if it's no longer the grind, how can I contribute to the growth of the company and supporting the team? And that turned into a whole other conversation about like, okay, I need to just be a lighthouse for the brand and go talk to other people about their stuff and their problems and help people. And then through that process, because apparel is one of the only products that is ubiquitous across almost every business in the world, from Google to axe companies to the computer company, like every company has apparel at some game or another. Yeah. So fortunately for me, it was like every person that I talk to ends up being, hopefully somebody I can learn from as a friend. And also in, whatever capacity we can help on a business side of things, potential, I hate to use the word like potential client, but we can offer a lot of help with that stuff. Yeah. And it's like, okay, well, that gave me a really good template to be like, okay, here's where I need to go. Here's the people I need to talk to. to number one, learn, and to have a different friend group, because that's also a large part of that too, is when you're in an entry level, like entrepreneurship level, or like a startup business thing, dude, it's great because like everybody wants to be your friend. Everybody's rooting for you. They're like, oh yeah, bro. And everybody wants to like pat you on the back. Oh dude, it's so great. Everybody's fucking, you get a little bit of success and like a little nice car. You're zooming around. And you're like M3 or something and fucking doing it. But then you get a little bit more and, you start to step into like, the 7-figure range, and those people who are like the 6-figure range, you're like, well, fuck that guy. You're like, I didn't really like him anyway. And they start to get a little backstabby. It's like the crab pot mentality. Have you heard of that?
Crabs in a bucket.
Yeah, exactly. Like so people want you to be successful, just not more successful than them. Yeah. And it's like, dude, it takes, I think, a very aware person to be truly happy for somebody else when they succeed, because everybody struggles, dude. Like everybody fucking struggles. I just got a DM the other day about like, somebody's like, when does it get easy? You were at Steel for a long time and looks like you're crushing the business. Like, when does it get easy? I'm like, bro,
it doesn't.
It never fucking gets easy. That's never the secret. Easy. It never gets easy. And I think that's also, it's true in so many other aspects, like fitness, right? Or working out. The weights don't get lighter. You just get better. Yeah. And I look at it. Yeah, exactly. I look at it like as my leadership trajectory. If I want to build a really big company, and my goal for the industry is I'm going to do eventually like a $300 million company. So if I look at what it takes to command and drive and be the captain of a $300 million, enterprise, do I have that right now? No, I don't. I'm not a good enough leader, entrepreneur, business person, whatever. I don't have the skill set to the level I need yet to command a company like that. But once I realized, okay, what do I need to do to get there? Then it became very clear. Like I know, I need to be very aware too of like your strengths and weaknesses. So like I need to get, as strong as I can on the things that I need to be strong at, and the things that I'm weak at. If there are things that need to be fixed, then I either need to fix them or work on that, or if it's sometimes impossibility, you can't get good at certain things, you have to then hire somebody or fill it in or outsource or whatever. But it's been a hell of a journey, man. I'm like, the further along I get, the more I realize how much more there is to learn.
Yeah. Like you don't know shit. That's how I feel.
Yeah, exactly.
That's how I feel. Dude, when we hang out, we all go out together. I'm the fucking smallest fish in a very, very, very large pond. And I just want to, I just want to look, but that's the difference. Like we're humble and we want to learn, and we understand that, hey, listen, I might be really strong at something that you're not good at. And I would absolutely spend whatever amount of time you need to learn that. And I know that you do the same thing. Like I've reached out to you, I don't know how many times, just on a personal level. You're like, dude, this is what you need to do. This is how you do it. Like, that's what this is about, though. People don't understand that. And listen, if you crushed it, if tomorrow you got acquired for, let's say, 200 million, I'd be texting you, congratulations, man. So happy. I love seeing my friends win. That is something that's wrong in entrepreneurship today. Okay. And it's all over the place. And
I think it's the low level entrepreneurs that are tight about that, though. Like the higher level guys, like an Arete and Andy, Ned, and those guys, dude, they're genuine. Like when somebody wins, they're like, dude, fuck yes. They're genuinely happy for them. And I think that's a big separator between like guys who are really confident in their skills and have reached a level of, true success where they're like, dude, there's enough for everybody to fucking win. Everybody. Yeah. If you want to do the work to attain it, like, dude, pull yourself up a seat at this table and let's fucking eat, dude. But it's all the lower level guys who are like, well, you're doing this and you're doing that, and they're all protective of their shit. I'm like, dude, I will fucking help anybody I can, any way I can, even if they'll never become a client. I'm like, dude, because I know how much that means if you can become the guy who helps people. Yes. Because then you're the guy, and everybody needs a guy. Like, you're my guy for finance. We're talking all the time. Like, Jonathan, dude, we're having this issue. Like, how do I solve this? What do I do? Right? And you're like, oh, you're an idiot. You got to do this. We're like, oh, thank you. But I think everybody needs a guy, and this very narrow, niche where I can be the guy for apparel, and I have deep knowledge on that. And I have,
bro, you don't give yourself enough credit, dude. I'm going to tell you right now, like friend to friend, brother to brother, you don't give yourself enough credit for a lot of the shit that you're really good with that you don't explain. Like I'll say it right on this podcast. You're a great leader. You're a great communicator. Okay. And you don't give yourself credit. So you are not like a apparel guy. Yes, that is your expertise, but you got a lot more to like show people and to give people. I'm telling you, man. And honestly, you are one of the nicest, most genuine dudes I know. Okay. Not just an artist, like all around. So like, that's what you bring to the fucking table, man. Like that's what you bring to the table.
I try to do, but I tell you, it does not feel like that sometimes, because I try to do that as much as I can. But at the same time, it's like, that's not how your wife sees you. That's not how your employees see you all the time. So it's like, oh, great communicating. I just got out of a meeting with some of our people earlier, and I'm like, hey, they're telling me, hey, you really fucked up communicating this. And like, you really could have done that better. I'm like, oh, I kind of did. All right. Yeah, you're right. Like I need to get better at that. And it's always, I think that awareness of self and realizing like, oh shit, like they're right. Like yeah. I'm bad at that. But there also are times where, and this is part of that conversation we had, where there's some things that they were right about. I'm like, okay, yeah, you're totally right. I can change that. And there's other things, well, it would help if you do this, or you should do that. I'm like, straight up, I'm not going to do that.
Yeah.
I hate repeating myself. And I'm like, dude, like, what do you want us to take notes on all this shit? I'm like, yes, I do. Yes, I hate repeating myself. I don't talk to our team a whole lot. And when I do, it's very specific. It's very important. And you should remember it. And if you don't think you remembered it, you should write it down. That's your responsibility. My responsibility is to solve the problem. Your responsibility is to execute on that solution. And if you don't remember what it is, remember having a conversation, that's not my fucking problem. And I'm not the one who needs to fucking change. So it's hard to find that line of like, leadership and communication, and like how much is you take on the Jocko, like, it's all my fault, it's all mine. But there comes a point where like, you know what? You're right. There's a lot of things I could do better. However, let's also work on this other thing with you guys too.
Dude, that's dichotomies in a nutshell. Right? Yeah. Dichotomies of leadership. And I'll tell you, it's so funny that you brought this up. I like to be self-aware too. And something that I have done lately that has really hurt me is I give people too much slack. I don't hold people accountable. And if I need you to do something, you don't do it, eventually I'm going to do it. Okay.
Same.
And bro, that's a fucking problem. I agree. That is a problem. And honestly, Sean and Scott, and this is cool that's on the podcast, I don't care. Sean and Scott called me out on this shit. Like in person, I'm like, wow. All right. So these are two guys that are our brothers.
So good friends to do that, man.
Good friends. And they're way more fucking successful than I am. Like just straight up. They're great entrepreneurs. They're great people. For them to call me out, and they did it in a great manner, and I'm very open to that. I'm like, fuck, you guys are right. So I had some hard conversations with some people, and that was in the last 2 days. So the fact that you brought that up, man, dude, that's why it's true. It's not easy.
Well, it's because I'm dealing with the exact same thing.
Yeah. Well, because you're here's the thing with you. It's so weird, bro. You are a fucking teddy bear, one of the nicest guys ever. And you could kill anybody with like a flick. Okay.
I wish that were true. I'd be like Thanos.
Yeah, exactly. You're like Thanos. But you're very patient. And it's like, I don't know, man. It's tough. It's like, what do you do? Like, it's not easy. And I want people to, I never want to be the hammer, right? I want to guide people, coach people. But when do you cut that line? Like as a leader, like how do you determine that?
Yeah, that's one of the hardest parts, and something that I've, personally struggled with as I've moved that transition from, manager to leader. In the beginning, like I said, I was really aware of it, and I realized, shit, I really, there's a lot of problems that I need to solve. So let me dive in and like, who's the best at this? And I was listening to a lot of Jocko's podcasts. I'm like, dude, okay, cool. I can do this. This is new shit to me. Like, this is what I need. Right. Mm-hmm. So I went on that path, and I'm like, okay, well, cool. Delegate. Hey, so I went too far the other way. So because my normal psyche is like very analytical, very data driven, almost like a cyborg, right? So like
Yes.
Disney, my wife calls me like a Vulcan, because that's just my basic operating system is like an engineer, just a total nerd, right?
Yeah.
So that's my basic go-to mentality.
Mm-hmm.
So I realized that's good for being an operator in the company. It's not good for being a leader.
Mm-hmm.
So I needed to develop skill sets as a leader to become more empathetic, to become more, less, I don't kind of controlling, but like less specific and micromanaging. So I went too far on that spectrum. I'm like, oh yeah, you hire this person. Oh, you run that. Oh no, you got it. And I was like, oh, all nice and lovey-dovey. And then shit got fucked up. So now I'm like, okay, bro, that doesn't work for me either. So, and it got, the way I explain it to myself now is that like, I'm not Jocko. Jocko's a fantastic, big Jocko fan, but I'm never going to be as patient and understanding as Jocko is. And we came to the conclusion that a tiger can only change its stripes so much. And once I got past that point where I was actually diluting my edge and the things that make me good at what I do by trying to be too empathetic and too soft, I realized, okay, I need to bring it back the other way. And I need to find that balance of between, hyper analytical and data driven and very empathetic and supportive. And that's kind of the balance that I'm trying to find right now. And in the meeting that we had, that was part of the conversation. They were saying like, well, you could do this better. And part of that was just two parts. Like one, you're totally right. Yeah, I can listen more. I can be more empathetic about that. But the other part is like, well, don't be so mad you have to repeat yourself. I'm like, no, that's you. That part is you. I am not going to fucking change me. That's part of what makes me very sharp in the things that I do. And I'm not going to fucking dull my edge or dilute my message and the things that I'm good at, because you should be better at taking fucking notes.
Yeah.
And I was a little softer with that because I was, different conversation.
Yes, I couldn't see.
But it was, the funny thing to me though, is that like, we're all dealing with the same problems, but everybody in entrepreneurship feels like they're dealing with it alone. Like, oh, I'm the only one. Nobody understands. And you and I, you and I were having almost the exact same conversation with other people at the exact same time. And we're like, okay, well, we're all in this shit. We're all dealing with the same stuff. But the funny thing is the solutions oftentimes look very similar. Like that's why there's so much transference in the things that I learned from you, the things I learned from, Andy and Ed and some of the other guys in the group is that, the decimal points might be in a different spot and the number of people might be in a different spot, but the situation is usually very similar. Mm-hmm. And the solution is usually about 75 to 95% the exact same thing. Yep. You just need to modify it for your own situation. But dude, I'm surprised, like, they say there's nothing new under the sun, but dude, there's so many things that are just old problems just with new faces. And once you learn what the basics are, it's real easy to just be like, oh, that's another one of those. Here we go. Let's apply this situation. And dude, it makes it so much easier, so much easier to move forward.
It's also how you handle stress as an entrepreneur.
Mm-hmm.
My last 7 months, and people don't know this, but like my last 7 months, my wife thinks I'm like borderline. Like Marissa thinks I'm like insane, like, because I don't react to it anymore. I just don't react to it. I'm just so used to it. Like, all right, what could happen? Like, what cost can run over? Like, what's going on? And then I'm just like, all right, cool. This is how we're going to fix it. Yes, it's going to suck for a little bit, but this is what we're doing. There's no like getting emotional about problems and challenges doesn't help solve them. No, not at all.
Exactly.
And I will say this, you're right. Like a lot of us deal with the same problems, and that's why it's so important to be in these groups. What's the best way? When you are open to have these conversations, you're also going to find the answers a lot quicker.
That's the key thing, man. When you're open, I mean? Yeah.
Yes, and a lot of people aren't. So all they're seeing is, hey, Instagram. Hey, yes, I just bought a new house. Yes, I love it. It's nice. But you know what? There's challenges. Like, the move was a disaster. Okay, closing on the property twice sucked. And twice in 5 weeks. Imagine that.
Ouch.
Long story. And this is coming from a money guy. Long story. Closing costs twice. Not fun. But we all deal with these issues. The point is, when you speak to your friends about it and you actually put it out there, you're helping other people avoid those potholes, you know?
Yeah. And I think it's important too. Like, so a lot of people have, I think, a misconception of what it means to be in these high level entrepreneurship groups where, and I saw this a little bit, maybe last year, a couple months ago, where there was a lot of people coming into a group that they weren't self-aware and they weren't really going there to learn. They were just going there to be like, oh bro, look who I met here. I'm fucking networking. I'm doing all this stuff, stunting for the gram. I'm like, bro, you're automatically like, it's not a dick measuring contest, dude. Like, you got to go in there and try to learn from everybody, you know, even the newest person there. I try to learn something from everybody I can, even if they're, you know, day one in business. I'm like, dude, that's awesome. Like you're experiencing the same problems I experienced, but your situation is going to be different and actually more valuable than mine was 14 years ago, because the world is different now than it was 14 years ago. So I would love to learn the problems that he's facing as a modern, like day one entrepreneur, because that means that I can now apply my experience and situation to help more people. So there's always something you can learn. But I think the best way to approach those things is like, you have to go in with the understanding that you're going to get punched in the face with some truth, you know, and if you go in there with that in mind and just know that it's going to be, you know, it hurts for people to tell you that you suck at shit. Sometimes it really does. Everybody wants to be told they're awesome, but you can't
get butthurt about it. You got to take that like constructive criticism and make the changes,
dude. And some of the connects, like meeting with like Aaron Wagner and Dan Fleischman and having very in-depth conversations with those guys, I'm like, I come away from all those conversations with two things. Like, number one, I'm so stupid and I'm so poor. Like,
yes,
this
100%.
Yeah. I'm stupid and poor. It's terrible. But man, every time I go away from those conversations, I'm like, holy shit. It usually takes me a couple days or even a couple weeks to fully absorb, because those guys are like genius level, you know, entrepreneurs. Oh, you're incredible. But it usually takes me a little while to really understand what they're talking about and then figure out ways to apply it to my situation. But conversations with those two guys in particular have really helped shape some of the major decisions that we've made in industry, and completely transformed our trajectory. So, and I wouldn't have made those connections or even been able to have those conversations with them if it wasn't for, you know, taking that step to like, okay, I suck at this. Who's really good at this? I'm going to go try to learn.
You're right. I'll tell you, because both of them I got a little bit of time with Fleischman. I said, hey man, I'm in lending. The marketing costs in my business are astronomical. How do I do that? Right away, he said, you can produce so much, like 60-second videos, so many of them daily, that these big guys can't keep up and you're going to crush them. Guess what happened?
Yeah.
So I did it. Holy shit, it worked. Okay.
Right.
And he made it so simple. He's such a good fucking human, both those guys. And then Wags, let me tell you something. There are two people in this world that if they said, hey, I have this going on, cut me a check, you know, I want you in, I'll do it. Everything that Wags touches, he's like king fucking Midas.
Yeah,
yes.
Totally
turns to fucking gold. Okay, I've done a couple days with him, and he is so fucking on the ball, transparent, and so ahead of the game. Done. Just tell me where to send the money to. But that's the difference. Done. Yes, incredible. But that's the fucking difference. Is you're like, we're in that room with those people, and just having a little bit of access to them, okay, can change the course of your business, the course of someone's life, because you're doing the right things and they know you're coming from a good place, right? If you were in that room stunting and just trying to do it for the gram, what's going to happen? No one's going to take you seriously.
Yeah, you're going to look like an idiot. Like, you might think you look cool, but nobody else thinks you look cool.
That's true. Yeah. And there's always a bigger fish. I got to tell you, where we are, I really do mean it. I feel like I am that like little hatchling in the bowl that's just swimming around, hoping it doesn't get eaten. You know, just trying to like
Same, dude.
sit back and learn.
Same.
So,
and it's funny that it never really ends, right? So if you look at like Musk and Bezos, top of the heap, but they're even then like, oh, number one. Oh, wait, no, not today. Now the other guy's number one.
Yep.
It's back and forth. And then now they both got overtaken by, some other guy.
Did they?
Yeah, somebody who owns or is CEO or whatever of the brand basically owns all the luxury brands, like all the major luxury brands. It's a big conglomerate that owns all of them. Yeah,
Okay.
it's something like $196 billion, something ridiculous.
Yeah, something crazy.
Yeah.
Wait,
yeah,
did he get
but
into the space race? Because that was hysterical. That was one of the greatest things I've ever seen.
That's awesome.
They're suing each other. You know that, right? Elon has the greatest Twitter account of all time, by the way.
Oh yeah, like that's such a troll. I love it.
But Bezos is suing him.
Oh really?
Yeah, on the space front stuff. That's serious.
I didn't know that.
Oh yeah. That he actually posted about it on Twitter. Like he's got to have insurance just for his fucking Twitter account. But you know what? It's amazing. Yeah. He is my favorite entrepreneur.
Talk about a dick measuring contest. They literally are just 50-story tall monuments. Like, look at my dick going into outer space. You're like, okay, bro, you got it.
My dick's gonna be on Mars first.
Right, dude. I'm like, okay. So like, yeah, where does this contest end? Like where is the end state for it? But
hopefully not Uranus.
Right. One of the things that became clear to me is like, okay, well, if we know that it never ends, right? Yeah. And this ladder to, quote unquote success is never ending, then you really have to decide where you want to step off it, right? Which basically, it's basically defining what success means for you, whether that's, you just want financial security and 2.5 kids and a white picket fence. And, you're if that's what makes you happy, if that's how you define success, bro, awesome. You don't need all the other shit. If that's what it takes to make you happy and you're content with that, bro, you don't need to go get a Lambo and a jet and a space rocket and all this shit. You don't need it. Like if you're happy with this, fuck, you won, dude. You don't need to do that. But if you're like, okay, I want, to have the experience of an exotic car. Okay, that's a different level. If you want, a private jet, it's a different level. If you want your own private rocket, like, okay, that's a whole other different level. But I think it's very, very important that you really get extremely clear on what success means to you. And then it becomes so much easier to plot a path towards it. It's like, I look at it like I'd like to challenge
that, but you're right. You are 100% right, but I want to challenge that when you're done.
I was just gonna say it's like a roadmap, right? So like on any map, you need 2 points. You need to know where you're at, and that's why I think it's important to have an honest, aware understanding of your strengths, capabilities, assets, everything, where you're at, and then also where you want to go, and down to the details of like what you want your day to look like. As I wake up and first thing I look at? Do I look at the ocean? Do I look at mountains? Do I look at penguins? Like what do I want my day to look like? Where do I want to have breakfast? Yeah. But once you are very clear with that, now you can start to plot a course, and it's never a straight line. Obviously, it's like any map. There's always like ups and downs and roundabouts and everything else. But I think a lot of people, they'll chase somebody else's version of success. And even if they happen to get it, like say you want a Lamborghini, you're chasing a Lamborghini. You're not a car guy. You might get a Lamborghini and be like, dude, this sucks. I'm still not fucking happy. Yeah. Right. If you're a picket fence guy, like don't go after Lambos, Like you really got to be clear on what you want.
I agree. But here's the thing. One of the greatest things someone said to me was, you set a goal, you hit it, you crush it, but then you realize, are you happy and you're done, you're satisfied? And fuck no. You move that goalpost and you keep going. Now, the problem
isn't that crazy?
It's very crazy because it's always a moving target. Now, the problem is this: what makes you a great entrepreneur is a blessing and a curse, because you have the mindset. Would you, and you don't have to answer, I don't know if you can answer this, I know my answer. Would you be able to turn it off and stop if you took, no. So even when you hit that goal, brother, you're not going to be happy. Because
Yeah.
you're gonna have 3, 4, 5 weeks, maybe even a year where you're like, okay, cool. And then you're gonna get the fucking itch because you're a builder and you're a creator, and that's what makes you successful.
You have
So
to love the journey.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
Appreciate
I think
the
that's,
process.
yeah, exactly. And I don't think you can reach a significant level of success without going through a significant amount of bullshit. And monetary things will only motivate people so far.
Yeah.
So I think in order to build anything of magnitude, you have to fall in love with the process. You have to understand that, yes, we have this goal, we have this journey, we have this, thing that we want to get to, this destination, but you have to fall in love with everything that you're learning on the way. Because if you don't, you're not going to have the fortitude to keep getting kicked in the face every day and wake up. And if you can't be like, oh, well, I learned this from that. Oh, I should duck here. So I think you have to fall in love with the process, and goals should change too. So I would say, like, I know for me, from some of my goals,
I
was very, it was fun. It was great. But after a while, dude, I had it for like 2.5 years. And after a while, it's like, just another car.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, all right, it's cool. I enjoy it, but honestly, I don't miss it. It's been, I think, maybe 3 or 4 years we sold it. And I don't know, if I miss it, I'll just, get another one.
You got some cool toys though, and you do some cool shit.
I do love cars. Yeah. But it's definitely different. And I've also noticed that as I've progressed in my experience level in entrepreneurship, my perspective has changed too. So like you talk about setting different goals.
Mm-hmm.
I used to, and this is something that speaking about the Lambo, it was a Huracan. So it didn't have the Lambo doors. So people don't know there's just 2 different levels of Lamborghini. Basically, there's the base level, which is usually about $250,000, and it was the Gallardo, now it's the Huracan, and the doors open like a normal door. And then the Lambo doors is always the higher level, and it was the Murcielago before, and now it's the Aventador, and those have Lambo doors. Yeah. So, but I used to think before, I had a friend of mine, and it was the very first Lambo I ever rode in, my buddy Frankie, in Vegas, and it was bright green Gallardo, and I'm like, bro, I'm thinking, oh my god, this is freaking crazy. I'm videotaping, like, this is fucking crazy. He's ripping around, I'm like, this is so badass. It's like, yeah, it's cool. Fucking thing doesn't have Lambo doors though. And at the time, I'm like, bro, who fucking cares? I'm like, it's a fucking Lamborghini. Like, this is badass, I'm like, because I'd never been in one before. I'm like, dude, this is killer. But then, and he ended up getting a Murcielago later. But then I got my Huracan. I'm like, you know what?
It doesn't have the doors.
The fucking doors bother me. They fucking bother me. I'm like, I want the fucking Lambo doors on my Lamborghini. And I was like, wow, I get what he was saying now. I understand what he was saying, but I wasn't in a position at the time to even understand the perspective that he was seeing. He was seeing so much further beyond where I was. I was just thinking, oh my God, a Lamborghini. He's thinking, yeah, this is cool, but what about the next thing? What about the bigger thing? And it took me a long time to kind of figure out that, like, man, it's okay to change goals. There's nothing wrong with that. In fact, I think if you're achieving goals, I think you have to change goals, because if you achieve it, what are you going to do? Stop?
You can't.
You have to set a new goal.
Yeah, you'll go crazy. You literally will go crazy.
Yeah.
And Ed, one of the best things I ever heard from Ed is being blissfully dissatisfied.
Yeah.
Listen, I bought a boat. It was my dream. It's the only thing I've actually spent money on. Okay. Because I don't say I'm cheap, but I like investments over the toys. The boat was the only thing I actually spent money on. I love it. It's a very nice boat. Most people don't start at this type of boat. 28-foot Formula. But now I'm here, nice. I'm in Florida, and Jesus, the boats that I'm seeing, I'm like, kind of like, I love it. I told my wife, she goes, you are not selling our fucking boat. I'm like, honey, like, just hear me out. This would be better for the family. She's like, don't do it. I'm going to do it. And she'll love it when it happens, but
you're like, babe, have you seen the Nortec?
Dude, how do you know? Nortec and Midnight Express.
Dude.
Yeah, hell yeah.
Oh, absolutely. Dude, once you get into boats, man, it's like, oh, it's a whole different world.
It is, but you know what? For me, I have peace there. Like for you, it's your cars. And I love that. I respect that. I have not been in a Lamborghini, by the way. Been in a Royce, been a couple of them. but that's not really my thing. If I'd be happy with like the Tesla Plaid, which is a fraction of what a Lambo is, right? Because that's me being like, I'll say like a cheap fuck, right? Because hey, could I do it? Yes. Do I
No,
want to? No, that's not
you've
what I
defined
value.
success for you. Yeah,
Exactly.
You know what makes you happy. Exactly.
100%. That's it.
But you know, it's funny for me too. This is something I've been struggling with recently. Is that I'm like, okay, I got to set a new goal for myself. And because we have our business goals and Disney have our personal goals, but a lot of those are like, you know, long-term, like 3 or 5 year stuff. And I realized I don't really have any like, you know, 6-month goals, 1-year goals, 18-month goals. So I decided like, okay, I should set one. And my default was like, okay, it's going to be a car. Right. And I'm like, okay, well, what do I want? I want an Aventador. And I'm like, but then I'm like, you know what? I don't know that I'd really be happy with that. It's kind of cool, but like, I can't think of that many times during a month where I'd actually want to go out and drive it.
Yeah.
Because my life is different now, and my expectations of myself and the things that I'm, you know, willing to put up with, because that car is very, it's a very big compromise to drive a car like that, you know, anywhere.
Yeah.
And I'm like, dude, I'm just not sure I'm willing to compromise on that. So then I just took a step back. I'm like, okay, what about a classic car? And I've had a bunch of classic cars. Now I'm like, they're kind of pain in the ass. They're reliable. They're always clunking around.
They're so sexy, though, dude. They're so
sexy. They look
I
good.
appreciate it. They really like legit.
Yeah,
70 Chevelle.
Yeah, that was beautiful. I do have a few, like we had a 1943 Willys with like a big V8 in it that we're building, and then another 1973 K5 that we're building. Okay. So I like those, but at the same time, I'm like, it's not the same carrot it was to me 10 years ago, you know? So now I'm like, I'm struggling with, I've always thought of myself as a car guy, but now I'm like, dude, am I a car guy? Because a car guy would, oh, cool, let's set a goal of a fucking Aventador, right? And that's it. That's, you know, car guy done. But I'm like, shit, if I don't think that's going to make me happy, and I don't have any other goals or interests or hobbies or anything else, I'm like, dude, if I'm not a car guy, what am I?
Yeah.
So now I'm in this kind of like discovery process. I'm like, well, shit, I got to get a hobby. If that's like, you know, working out or fighting or, you know, whatever it is. I'm 43. I'm not going to go fucking try to be a UFC fighter or anything, but I think it's important.
But you could.
I get my ass kicked.
I don't think so.
But I think it's important to have something to work towards, though, and have some kind of goal. So for me, that's what I'm currently dealing with. Is like, kind of like, okay, well, you know, changing that goal of, you know, if being a car guy no longer serves me anymore, I need to find something else. Maybe I'll come over in your corner and be a boat guy or something. I don't know, but I think I'm trying to experience as much as I can now, so that I can kind of taste these other things and be like, ooh, that's cool. That's something I want to spend more time or energy on and get closer to. Because honestly, I've been a car guy since I can remember. And now is the first time like, oh, maybe I'm not. It's weird.
I mean, for me, honestly, it's always going to change. So figuring out is tough, but once you do and you set that goal, I think you'll crush it. I'll tell you this, look at your 3 and 5 year goals, because this is what I do, and try to make them like break it down into smaller chunks. And maybe that's your 6 month, right? Mm-hmm. Like, hey, if I need to be here in 5 years, well, what's going to give me the biggest head start? And make that your 6 month target. That's what we're doing with the gyms. I'll be honest with you. And this is all from Nash. This isn't from me. Like working with them and projecting this out, it's really cool. And we're making sure everybody's aligned and all this shit. I've never done that in my business. So always fucking learning. And I'll tell you, like, it would work the same way with personal goals as it does for business goals. It's no different.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you know? That's a good point, man. I got to sit down and get a bottle of mezcal and figure it out or something.
I hear you. Well, Ryman, I appreciate you coming on. This wasn't even a fucking podcast, dude. This is just like I'm talking to my buddy, and
it's a good catch-up session.
Bro, I fucking love this shit. Where can people find you? If they
Instagram's probably the best place. Yeah, I do most of that stuff on there. It's Invictus 5326. The business one is industry_Threadworks. That's kind of cool if you want to like, get in the technical side of things, but most of the stuff that people who are listening to podcasts are probably more interested in my personal account. We do have a lot of videos on YouTube. Same thing, youtube.com/Invictus5326. So that goes into a lot of details of like, how do you start a business? How do you find your niche? How do you, research trademarks and, get your digital real estate, and a lot of like the nerdy stuff about starting a business that nobody really talks about. So we have a lot of info on there. But yeah, DM on Instagram is probably the best place, man. I'm pretty active on there. I enjoy the social interaction, and I dig it, man. I mean, social media, a lot of people don't like it, but I think it's like any powerful tool, right? Like it's what you make it. So you can, let's say you have a hammer, like you can build a house with it, or you can smash your foot. Like you can do both of it. You got to figure out how to use it and then apply it for what you want to do with it.
It's an amazing analogy. I've built all my businesses with social. I don't know if I'd be able to build a business without it, actually, to be honest with you.
Yeah, it's an incredible tool, man.
Yeah. It's not hard either. Just add a lot of value, be consistent, and business comes in. It's amazing. It's like this fucking ATM that's attached to something I use every day.
I think it's cool because it allows me to have these kind of because I don't watch TV, but I don't watch like news channels or anything like that. So it allows me to kind of, oh my God, it's nuts. The fear mongering is insane right now. So I just kind of feel like that's how I get my news is I listen to people's stories or watch them on people that I trust and they're vetted. And then I form my own opinion and then kind of talk about stuff. And, I enjoy the interactions there because I can talk to so many people and learn so much and figure things out, but also it's very arm's length. So like, I don't have to, they're not like in my space. I'm like, oh God, bro, you're like right next to me. I'm like, oh, like I like the arm's lengthness of it. So that's why I think social media is a really interesting, really powerful tool. And I think, dude, this is something not a lot of people understand either, is that right now is literally the best time in human existence, the easiest time to start a company, to start a business, to be self-sufficient and reliable. Like, it is unbelievable to me that people are like, oh, well, I can't get a job. I can't do this. I can't do that. I'm like, what the fuck were you gonna do 20 years ago, 30 years ago? Internet didn't exist. Like, what are you gonna do? Yeah. Like there's so much opportunity right now to do shit, and people don't want to do it. They want it handed to them on a silver platter. They want to be spoon fed this shit. And I'm like, dude, you don't have what it fucking takes to build anything. And even if somebody handed you $1 million, if you have that mindset of like, oh, you just hand it to me, you'll be fucking broke in a year. Even if somebody handed you $1 million. Dude, it's insane that people don't think about it.
I had that exact conversation today. Somebody is coming in and they need us to do bridge loans. And the way one of my guys phrased it, I was like, okay, dude, this is awesome. We're going to help a lot of people get a lot of these big transactions. And he's like, yeah, I vetted these guys. I'm like, all right, cool. I still want to have a phone call though, because we're talking about money. And I'm always for having my clients win, but also I have to protect my relationships on the back end. Yeah. So when someone comes in, they're saying they're doing all these VC deals. Well, venture capital, if it's legit venture capital.
Yeah, what's your success rate?
well, that and they're smart fucking dudes. Okay, they're talking about 3% money over like 10 years. First off, that doesn't make fucking sense to me. Okay. Second, these guys are put up. So I let these guys rap on about what they needed us to do. And I called my buddy because I was pretty short with him, pretty brief. Called him after because he's one of my outside consultants. I'm like, listen, Jay, we'll take a look at 2 or 3 deals, but I am 90% sure that these guys are bullshit and they're not doing nothing with it. So I'm not putting my guys, my banks, or my private money at risk to get any of these done. I said, let's see, and we'll discuss what it is, but they could not give me like guidelines. They emailed them over to me. I took a look. I'm like, nah, this doesn't seem right. Don't smell right. Yep. And here's the deal. Even if it was legit, like they're talking about one guy being a tech startup. All right, cool. You're a tech startup. Well, you don't need $5 million because you haven't built anything yet. And if you got that $10 million or $5 million, whatever the fuck it is, you're just going to find ways to blow it instead of actually building literally
Exactly.
had that conversation. Like,
Dude, it's so funny, man. Well, it goes back to exactly what you're talking about, is like finding that middle ground between like, trusting your guys and be like, no, you got it, to be like,
yeah,
but maintaining your sharp edge. Like, hey, I know what I'm looking for. I know that I need to maintain my sharp edge on this, and then executing on that, and like finding that balance is tough, man. But once you see it though, man, it's everywhere.
yep, exactly. Damn, like we could keep going. We are going to do another one soon on current events, because
Man,
yeah, we're not going to get there right now, because that'll be 3 hours of me and you just going back and forth.
Oh my God,
way more F-bombs. I'm going to send you a bottle before that one, because we're going to.
I was going to say I might need a bottle of Jack or something to get into that one.
Just text me what you want and the address to send it, and we'll do it in like 2 or 3 weeks. I guarantee you that's the most downloaded fucking episode of all time.
Oh my God, there's some crazy stuff going on right now, man.
I really, like, as a father, I'm really fucking concerned. That's all I'm going to say, because we're not going to get into it. But having kids, like, I'll tell you this is the last thing, that teacher thing, like teaching them, like, so I would literally go to the school, beat him within an inch of his life. And if he was still there in a week when he got out of the hospital, I would do it again. And again, you would either lock me up or I would kill him. There's no in between.
And people are like, what do you do about it? I honestly, I don't know what the answer is yet, but I think Sean Whalen has a really good plan for this. He's basically like, hey, get fucking rich and get prepared. I'm like, dude, that sounds good to me.
100%. Why do you think I moved to Florida?
Dude, that's a good call, man.
Yeah. Well, dude, you're always welcome. You'd love the neighborhood.
Oh, we will. We'll take you up on that for sure.
You should come by. Well, guys, share this episode, and we're gonna have Ryan on. We're gonna do that in a couple of weeks. Give Ryan a break. We'll come back. I'll send him a bottle, and we'll talk about current events. It'll be amazing. I know you guys got something out of this. Please leave us a review and share it. Ryan, thank you so much for coming on, brother.
Dude, thanks for having me, man. Appreciate it.
Hell yeah.
All right.
Creating success out of failure. Creating success out of failure.
Thanks for tuning in to Creating Success Out of Failure. Please share this with someone that needs to hear it, post it on social media, and leave us a 5-star review. I'll catch you on the next one.
Creating success out of failure.